Yes. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this workshop that we have very promptly, like we were just talking about, named Poetry and Belonging. Riya, you want to say some words?
So this topic came to us because we were looking for something around community, and we bounced off a few ideas and then finally decided on belonging, because that's how we have felt through, say, the Nook or Fem Fridays or the workshops that both of us have done. Not just writing poetry for ourselves, but when we read poems by others, or when we share poems that we enjoy, there's this deep sense of belonging that the yearning for it is kind of satiated through that. So, yeah, hence this topic.
Before we begin, also, let's do quick introductions of ourselves. Do you want to go first, and then I'll go, and then we'll start?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, I'm Riya. I go by the name The Nook Seeker on Instagram. It's a poetry art community. It started off because of a newsletter that I used to run called The Nook, which I still do. It's about to be 3 years old. We will drop links for all of these in the chat, and you can maybe go and give us a follow if you don't. Yeah, really looking forward to this, and we hope you enjoy this session, and it encourages you to, if nothing, it encourages you to write and share what you write. It's not just about writing, but putting it out into the world and helping others find community through you. So, yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shivani. I, like many of you, started writing when I was 13. I don't think what I wrote was very nice, but I stuck with it. And then somehow I ended up doing a bachelor's in writing. And then I did a bunch of different genres of writing, but somehow I found my niche in poetry. Last year, I got together with some friends, and they had this organization called Fem Fridays. I decided to join in, and Fem Fridays was based in Bhopal and would do local poetry meetups. But with COVID and everything, we realized that there was more value in going online and inviting more people in. So that's what we did. And now we do workshops, poetry workshops, writing discussion rooms, pretty much a couple of Fridays every month. So if you guys would like to join us sometime later this year, you're very welcome. And poetry and belonging is important to me because that's how I was able to find, a community in writing after I graduated from university. It's easy to have friends when you're in school. And then when you leave as an adult, making friends is impossible. But poetry and finding communities has helped. That's how I met Riya. That's how I met Nilofer. So this is a very important topic to me. Let's start. Is everybody able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a quote by David White, which we felt was very apt in terms of what belonging is. To feel as if you belong is one of the greatest triumphs of human existence, and especially to sustain a life of belonging and to invite others into that. But it's interesting to think that our sense of slight woundedness around not belonging is actually one of our core competencies. That though the crow is just itself, and the stone is just itself, and the mountain is just itself, and the cloud in the sky is just itself, we are the one part of creation that knows what it's like to live in exile, and that the ability to turn your face towards home is one of the greatest human endeavors and the great human stories. I love this quote so much because if you really think about it, for all of human history, all we have wanted is to be better, to do better, to get to a better place, to find someone to love, find someone who loves us back, be it a place, be it a person, be it a moment in time. And the fact that we have a woundedness because of not belonging means that we are constantly searching for belonging. And I feel like belonging is such a wide spectrum also, because you could belong to a place and still want to belong to more. And it sort of creates a tension, which Riya is going to talk about.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how you were talking about slight woundedness, right? And there's this whole difference between that innocent childlike hurt when you're excluded and a permanent scar of, say, being marginalized. Like, it's on a spectrum from this to that human beings experience the lack of belonging. And again, the same thing for belongingness. It could be in a person, in a place, in a specific moment in time, but also it could be within yourself. And so belongingness and not belonging both are on a spectrum, and that, I think, is the beauty of this quote. So while we were reading David White's hot take on belongingness, we also found someone, a poet, Irish poet, John O'Donoghue, who's no more, sadly. He was a very good friend of David White's, and both of them have written extensively on the topic of belonging. And obviously, they must have bounced ideas of each other. So what we did was go through John O'Donoghue's work and see if he said something that, takes the conversation ahead. And I found this very beautiful thing that he said, among other things: the constant vital tension between longing and belonging. You long to belong to a particular place or a person or a period of time, or within yourself. There's this longing because of which you go on this journey to belong, right? Without having the end in mind where you want to belong, your longing has no direction. It's basically, it's directionless, it's pointless. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is, as soon as you achieve what you wanted to belong to, the longing ceases to exist, and the value of that thing that you wanted to belong so deeply to goes down. You don't care about it anymore. You take it for granted. It could be a person, it could be your parents, it could be the person you love, it could be your friends that you love. As soon as you get that sense of community, you get that sense of belongingness and get comfortable, the longing for it goes away and the value of it goes away. So it's a paradox. And as most beautiful things, this feeling of longing and belonging has this paradox. I wanted to share that with you.
Have you guys ever experienced that feeling where it is easier to write about somewhere you are not as opposed to somewhere you are? The thing, as soon as you start belonging, you take it for granted and you start longing for something else. Because that happens to me. If I'm
human,
yeah,
to want something that you don't have. Like that poem on, I forgot the poet's name and the poem, but it's about a kiss that never happened, and how that kiss in that person's eyes is what haunts her even now, because that didn't happen. But the kisses that happened, they have a place of their own, but this is more special. So it's that, went off topic a little, but yes.
I love it though. Okay, a little warm-up exercise to get our brains running, to get the gears turning and churning. We want you to make a list. Basically, you don't have to write a poem, like it does not have to be perfect. Make a list of any two of the following prompts. Whether, like, the first one is in the ways in which you want to belong, the way you see yourself belonging, or the ways in which you have felt like you belonged somewhere. And in this case, like, it does not have to be, a place. It can be place, people, a moment in time, food, memory, dreams, and like Nilofer was saying in the beginning, a history that you felt like you belonged in, anything. This is like a free for all, free write sort of thing. And 5 minutes, we'll take 5 minutes for this. Does that sound good? So I'll set a timer for 5 minutes. And if you guys could just you don't, as many as you can come up with. There's no minimum or maximum number of points. Let me just set my timer real quick. Okay, your 5 minutes start now. Hands up.
Time's up, is it?
Yes.
Yep.
Would anybody like to share what they've written?
Devanshi has raised her hand. Please go ahead, Devanshi.
Hi everyone, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay, so I wrote a piece yesterday only on this. So, sometimes what happens is we are like connected to somebody and they leave, or we have to let go of them. So it's just a bittersweet memories we can cling on to. So I feel that there's a sense of belonging and a sense of longing also. So it's this piece is like on that only. So it goes like, a spirit dwells in my nightmares. Yesterday, it came uninvited, knocking at the door of my soul. I tried to recognize it as it dangled in the blue air. I took a deep sniff as it penetrated every inch of my skin, darting empty holes. I shrugged in my dream at the sight of something familiar. I clenched my face in spiteful fear and already muttered a dead prayer. I heard a loud, monotonous thud. It was the noise of the tragedy of broken promises that looms in our frail veins. The only vivid memory is about its faded trails. The flower of your smile has lost its fragrance. The letter in your eyes, tale of old yearnings. The kisses you drenched me in are dehydrated. The cuddles you wrapped me in have turned cold blooded. The chocolates of your flesh I tasted once have worn a cover. In vain I tear them apart. I get a whip of pungent flavor on my tongue. It burns with melancholy, rage, and pented up tongue. That's it.
Thank you for sharing that, Devanshi. I hope you can use elements from this, because towards the end of this workshop, we will be writing a longer poem. Did you end up writing a list on any of these two topics? Because we sort of will be using, if you did make a list, we will be using that for our final workshop. For our final writing prompt. So if you haven't, while other people are reading theirs out
Reading,
loud,
yeah.
that
Or you
we
could even, if it's easier, pick images from this poem, and then you could have another poem.
Yeah.
So that's always a win-win, right?
Yeah, or use you had that thing about hugs and cuddles and chocolates. You could turn them into like a list of things in in ways in which you felt like you belonged to someone once or with someone once. I see hands up for Ishita and Jasmine. Ishita, you were gonna go first and then Jasmine?
Yeah, sure. So I actually wrote down like both categories, and I found myself wanting to answer what you felt like you belonged to already. Like I found myself like kind of going to that. So like some of the instances, like recent experiences that I had, I think just kind of went chronologically for me. So one of them was crying in the arms of a friend, revisiting the past pains at a ghat. That was something that was a recent experience. Cooking a cozy meal of sautéed mushrooms for an evening snack. Again, something that I like kind of find myself again and again going to. Sitting with a mug of hot chocolate on a cold, rainy day. That's something that I'm doing right now. It's cold and it's rainy in Delhi. So I feel a sense of belonging in that moment within my own room. Then I found myself like going to the first part, and in which ways that you want to like feel belonging. And it was being seen for the art that I make and heard for what I have to say. So I like to like sketch and I like do a little bit of drawing. And I think that's the part that's kind of asking me to do that. And the next one was starting a new life in a new city that is quaint and it embraces my silliness. So I'm actually like asking this question right now. Like I'm in the process of kind of transitioning, and I've tried this a couple of times, like trying to move away from a city. And every time like this, like there are different questions that kind of come up. So I think just right now the question is, can I be silly in a new city? So yeah, I think that's about it.
I love that, silly in a new city.
That's a great jumping off point for the poem.
Yes.
I'll make it silly then.
Yeah. Thank you. Jasmine, and
Yeah.
then Devanshi, and then Rijita.
Yep.
Yeah, hi. I'll just switch on my video because, yeah, hey. Love the prompt, and I love that you gave 2 prompts too. I think as soon as I read both of them, my mind instantly went to the first one, which is like there being a lot of ways in which I do want to belong. And of course, there are ways in which I belong. And I think it would be a good gratitude exercise to write on that as well, which is something I'm planning to do tonight then. But yeah, so it's just a list. It isn't all that put together. But yeah, the ways in which I want to belong. Um, I want to look into people's eyes when I say hello to them. I want to not have to worry about whether someone is laughing at me when I see them share a laugh. I want to be able to walk into someone's home and not linger on the living room couch or just talk about the weather at the dinner table. I want to be able to speak loudly and clearly. I want people to wait a few seconds uh, when we get together and call out to me before taking a group picture. I want to discard my inner critique voice. I want to belong to myself. I want to belong to my life. Um, I want to be held by a friend when I'm crying. I want to be held by myself when I'm crying. Um, I never want to cry by myself. Uh, I don't know about that line, not very sure, but um, I don't want to search through a sea of inquiring eyes to reach your warm ones. I want to smile into all the pair of eyes in the room only to find your warm eyes on me when I reach them in the end. So, yeah.
I love that. I love that list. It's a lovely list.
Thank you.
It's a very intimate, very, like finding belonging in little moments of life list.
And a very relatable one as well.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I think Devanshi goes next, and then Rijita.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I would like to apologize first because of my connectivity issues. I cannot switch on my camera. Otherwise, internet will just go haphazard. Okay, so what I wrote is not a poem or a list, but it is something like an insight, which I realized later after I completed my bachelor's. So I had this 2.5 years of a time period right before COVID came. And that was the time in my life, I think I realize now that it was a home for me. And I search for that belongingness every time I miss my individuality. And I also had an insight after that, while I lived through that, we also find belongingness in certain moments suddenly, which I think I did today as I was outside. I hope everyone would be aware that there is this food festival going on in Pragati Maidan. Today is the last day. So I went there and it was a lovely day, warm, although it was cold, but it was very warm day for me. And I found my belongingness there in the aromas of food and the cold. And something like near to a rainy weather. This is what I define belongingness for me. Thank you.
Got it. Finding belongingness in food is
That's our favorite thing to talk about all the time.
yes, food, especially fruits for us. But
Yeah.
yes,
But thank you for sharing that, Devanshi. If you want, take those insights and try to sort of, bullet point them. So that way it's easier for you to use them later on when we do the final writing prompt.
Yes, surely.
Yeah. Okay. And Rijita.
Hi. I'm very excited and nervous at the same time. This is the first time I've decided to put myself out there and experiment with writing and saying something. So I'm so sure I'm going to fumble, even if I have written words really boldly and far apart. So I read them slowly while I'm saying it. So please excuse me when I fumble. But yes, I'm very excited to do this. All right. So I have written, I've written a list for both of them, but I'm going to read a few of them where not necessarily I will have to explain, like the background for it at the moment. I would like to do that through the process while I think, towards the end when we write the poetry. So the ways in which I want to belong are in the column in the columns of magazines and not blogs. I want to belong in his heart the way he belonged in mine once upon a time. I want to belong in library books as old notes when I used to be on his mind. I've messed this up, but okay. The second one, the way in which I have felt belong. I felt belong in someone's arms who healed what he didn't break. I felt belong yesterday at dinner, where two women 20 years apart were talking about the invisibility of their relationships that they faced. I felt belonged on my birthday party, where is a boys' evening that I a party that I crashed. Yeah, so because I'm very overwhelmed around my birthday and I wanted to do something very calm and where I didn't feel like, where people are constantly putting their hopes on me. So a friend of mine was hosting a bunch of his friends and he just invited me over. So people didn't know it was my birthday, but I just had like a great time that evening where I didn't feel overwhelmed or burdened. So it was and it was very recently, so I really felt belonged then. Yeah.
That's a great birthday party idea.
Yeah.
We'll keep that in mind. But thank you for sharing. And like just the fact that you put yourself out there and talked, that's a great win. And it was a wonderful list. Especially love the he healed what he didn't break. That was
exactly. I wrote that
beautiful.
down.
That was
That was
beautiful.
beautiful. Yes.
Yeah.
And it happens so often in life where someone else comes in and heals something that did not,
Yeah.
break. So that was
And it's
lovely.
important for you to be aware of it because you don't want to have the reaction that should be for someone who broke that, but
Yeah.
not the person who's healing it.
Yeah.
So that's that was nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was you guys, that was all really good.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Let me just put the screen to the side so I can see the presentation. Okay. So the reason behind that exercise was just so we could give you, a starting point, a material to sort of, as like a jumping off point for whatever poem you end up writing. This poem is called When I Grow Up, I Want to Be a List of Further Possibilities, which is one of our favorite poems. We use this in almost all the workshops we do. And this is basically how you can take the list you've just made and elevate it, right? So what you can, like a lot of you said that there was context behind a lot of the list items you put, how to give those things context, how to make the list go from just 1, 2, 3 in one sentence to something that has more structure, that has more image, more sense to it. This is a great poem to sort of give you an example. Use, a lot of times when you write a list poem, you see that people employ certain techniques. They will, you guys, you just did a list, but the technique that pretty much all of you employed was repetitiveness. All of you used, I want to belong to, yeah, I felt belonged, yeah, in XYZ. That was something that all of your lists started with. So you're already halfway there. Now you take that list You choose a style that works for you. You choose either repetition, or you choose, for example, this poem is repetition, but instead of in or belonged to, it says I want to be, and instead of, just the title says I want to be a list of further possibilities, and the poem then never uses the words I want to be, because that's already explained in the title. So you just go to be, to be, to be, to be, to be. I'm gonna start reading now. To be a good ex/current friend for R, to be one last inspired way to get back at R, to be relationship advice for L, to be advice for my mother, to be a more comfortable hospital bed for my mother, to be no more hospital beds, to be in my spare time, America for my uncle, who wants to be China for me, to be a country of trafficless roads and a sports car for my aunt, who likes to go fast, to be a cyclone of laughter when my parents say their new coworker is like that. They can tell because he wears pink socks. See, you don't, so you can't. Can't be one of them. To be the one my parents raised me to be. A season from the planet of planet-sized storms. To be a backpack of PB&J and everything I know for my brothers who are becoming their own storms. To be, for me, nobody, homebody, body in bed watching TV, to go 2D, and be a painting, an amateur's hilltop and stars, simple decoration for the new apartment with you. To be close, J, to everything that is close to you. Blue blanket, red cup, green shoes with pink laces. To be the blue and the red, the green, the hot pink. Do you see how fun this poem is? Like, poems don't have to be sad. They can be sad and very playful at the same time. So, I felt like everybody's list was a good mix of sad things, but also happy things. And you can put them together in the same poem without it having to be fully sad and fully, happy.
I'd also like to add something to that. The last bit that you said about both sadness and happiness being there together, coexisting. It's also about going beyond the primary emotions. Like, say there are 6 primary emotions, right? Sadness, happiness, anger, jealousy, and all of that we know. And sometimes we stay limited to those, and we don't go deeper. We don't explore things like curiosity. We don't explore things like envy. And then there are so many secondary and tertiary emotions which you may not know that your experience lies there. You can fit them there, but you have limited yourself to the primary emotions. So sit down and think about where does this fit, and try to have fun with that emotion, because you may not have tried something around curiosity or something around, like I was saying, envy, or awareness of that envy, and not wanting to act upon that, but being aware that, yeah, I am envious, I want to do terrible things, but I will not. That makes a fun poem. So accept the human that you are is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Did anybody have any thoughts about the poem? Anything that you really liked? Anything that you would like to explore when you write your own poem? Anything?
Roshali's given a heart to Chen Chen in the chat, so I'm counting that.
I think for me, like, it felt like I'm sitting in his room and he's just like kind of looking around, like sometimes within himself, like literally sometimes looking around at objects, what's around him. And yeah, I mean, it's like really sweet. It also like kind of feels like it can happen anywhere. Like, you can just get that moment of belonging. Like in this moment when he's writing it, maybe he's feeling like that. You write anywhere, maybe that.
What I like about this poem the most is the unexpectedness of it. For example, I want to be a season from the planet of planet-sized storms. Like, just to have fun with words, have fun with feelings, have fun with. One thing I have learned in my poetry writing process, that often we are made to believe that a good poem can only come from a place of anger or heartbreak. That is the biggest lie anybody will ever tell you. Write fun poems. Write poems when you don't know what you're feeling, when you can like reassess tertiary feelings, when you don't know how to define a feeling. Write a poem about it, you know? And when a poem
that has a phrase like cyclone of laughter.
yeah, and when it says cyclone of laughter, you think it's gonna lead into something beautiful, but it leads into something sad actually.
Exactly.
So that's how our minds work, right? We are sad 1 minute and then we're suddenly confused and then we're happy. Sometimes when your parents say something that you don't agree with, you're angry about it. And then you're telling your friends. So you're angry, but you're also laughing about it.
That's how you process it.
Yeah.
That's the only way to process difficult things is through laughter.
Yeah.
Rushali wants to say something. She's raised her hand.
Yeah, so I think this is just something which I've been observing a lot in poems these days. So my attention goes really to the how the poem starts and how it ends. So I just wanted to say that I really like the beginning and the ending of this poem, like how it starts with to be a good ex or current friend for our. Just did not see that coming, and. Yeah, the thing which Shivani said, the unexpectedness of this poem. Yeah, and then it goes on and ends to be the blue and the red, the green, the hot pink. I just love that.
When you don't know what's coming next, it keeps you reading, which is always a great advice to keep in mind when you're writing anything, actually, not just a poem.
Or maybe give the hint of something that they think is coming, but then serve something else.
Yes. Because then it's like a punch in your gut. You're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Because even like the beginning of this poem is like, I want to be, a good ex or current friend, but I also want to be one last inspired way to get back at her. It's so conflicting. And that's how your mind works. Your mind doesn't think in a linear pattern. It's, going everywhere all at once. Great movie, by the way, if you guys haven't watched. But yeah.
I think Devanshi
Yeah,
had raised her hand. So yeah.
Yeah. I read the text. Yeah, I like how the writer is very much aware of the surroundings and how the writer is, what do we say, attributing to what to be and what not to be, the negativities and positivities of certain objects altogether.
Also, if you guys notice, it's like, this is not a poem about grand things. It is a poem about small things. It is a poem about a blue blanket. It is a poem about
green shoes with pink laces.
Yeah, about the author's mother in the hospital.
Yes. I mean, I think not everyone is very much aware about the other person, and I like this how the writer has talked about his brothers, his mother, and her uncle. I mean, in our so rush life, people really are oblivious to the other person's feelings, and I think the growth they are also having, or maybe whatever pain they are going through.
Yeah. It's just, I love the part about, for my brothers who, are becoming their own little storms. This is just beautiful because it's almost like you can tell that this is a older sibling, but yeah, it's a beautiful poem. And so this is what we, when you, after this workshop ends, when you go away and you have your own time with the list that you made, try to turn it into not something exactly like this, but something inspired by this. Because this is basically a list one. It is a list of things. It's just a poetic, gut-punching, breathtaking list of things. Lovely. Should we take a 5-minute break?
Yep.
And then jump into our
next section. Huh?
next section? Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay. Let's take a quick 5-minute break, guys. If you guys want to stretch, get yourself a drink, get some snacks, go to the bathroom, do all of that, and we will. It's 5:18 right now, so we'll see you at 5:23. And
that was some quick mental math. Yes, yes.
Okay.
5:23 it is.
5:23.
Yes. See you.
Is everybody back?
Looks like it. Okay. So we start again. Begin again. So this is one of my favorite poems by David White. It's called Everything is Waiting for You. Everything is waiting for you. Just think about that title for a second, you know. I'll read the poem and then we'll get into why I love it and all of that. I don't want to ruin it for you. Your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone. As if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny hidden transgressions. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. Surely, even you, at times, have felt the grand array, the swelling presence, and the chorus crowding out your solo voice. You must note the way the soap dish enables you, or the window latch grants you freedom. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. The doors have always been there to frighten you and invite you. And the tiny speaker in the phone is your dream ladder to divinity. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you at last. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you. Everything is waiting for you. I love this poem because to give these things the attention they deserve because of the attention they give us is the mark of an absolutely wonderful wordsmith, which David White, of course, is. And it immediately takes your attention to your surroundings, and it doesn't guilt you into the fact that you've not been paying attention to all this while, but kind of makes you grateful for the fact that these things have been looking out for you. You know, even when you're coming into a home where there may be no one waiting for you, there are these things that are waiting for you, right? They're waiting for you to say yes, to acknowledge the fact that you are not alone. Anyone wants to add anything, their favorite line or what this reminded them of, or any emotion that this brought out? Tushita, yes, please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I think a lot of it is about being very hopeful about life. And as an adult, it's more relatable because so much of our lives become about moving out and, not being with the family, but also finding ways to sort of stay connected to some very important parts. And in that whole journey, I think we've tried to find happiness in the very little things, also making our home or our rented apartments good space. So I think this, the window latch grants you freedom. This is like very relatable.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Anyone else? There are some comments. This poem reminds me of Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. This poem reminds me of a lot of poems by Mary Oliver.
Yeah.
She's the kind of person who you will be ranting about your life to, and she'll be like, "Have you thought about moss?" I read this somewhere, and then you realize that, oh no, I haven't thought about moss.
And then you think about moss, and then you're like,
Yes.
okay, maybe life doesn't suck all that much.
Exactly.
My favorite line. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Who was speaking?
No, please go ahead first.
Oh, no, Ishita, you go first, and then I'll go. It's okay.
I think for me, like this idea of to feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. I think that's where it kind of anchors me. And like a lot of time, like even in relationships or just uh, when you're feeling abandoned, it's also very true that you are abandoning. Like, and that's true for a lot of like experience. If like I don't feel like I'm being trusted, it's pretty much possible that I'm also doing the same thing. Like when like we see it in from a distance. So I think like just it feels like this the degree of abandonment this kind of portrays. So feeling abandoned with a person, but like feeling so disconnected that your surroundings are not even able to absorb that. Like that just it's very like unearthing. It makes you like feel very floaty.
Yeah.
So it's little just little like slightly above the ground right now, like not in a very good way. Like while just reading this bit.
I feel like this is sometimes this kind of mindset is not an easy mindset of getting in, right? Like you feel like you do get so alone sometimes that you don't want to see the good in things. And I think that's where I used to be like 2.5 years ago. And just actively, consciously reading good things made me feel better. Like, no kidding. You know, sometimes when we are sad, we tend to read really sad things, really angry things. And I feel like that only feeds the bad in ourselves. Like it feeds the bad feeling. And when you make a contentious effort to sort of, read good things, I'm not saying it's going to change you in a single day, but it is going to help you sort of, flip your mindset gradually.
Challenges the challenging emotions, sort of.
Yes. Yeah. It's not going to, it's not going to fix you, but it's going to give you motivation to do, maybe like one thing in one day, and that's going to be enough. Like
I
this.
also want to bring your attention to the line that says alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. This goes back to the conversation we had about how once you get what you want to belong to, the value of it goes down. So you have to constantly remind yourself that you need to be alert, especially, okay, not especially, but when it comes to a person, we tend to stop being attentive, tend to stop being alert about how they are feeling, what they are going through. So, yeah.
Also, this takes me back to Jasmine's list, which was, so sort of like narrowed down into little tiny moments in life, which, like sometimes a lot of the times I feel like, oh, I don't travel as much. Oh, I don't do this, I don't do that. What will I write about? It is important to remind yourself in moments like this that there is so much to write about. It feels impossible.
Nothing spectacular happens in my life.
Yeah. Like your life does not have to be some grand adventure. You could be sitting in your room and write about it. Like the line, the kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. You just to, just to like flip your mindset of like, I am not pouring this drink. This kettle is pouring a drink for me. It's just it fills you with a sense of gratefulness almost.
Also the cooking pots when they are new and shiny, and he's compared that to arrogant aloofness. And now that you've used it, you've cooked stuff in that, and now it's seen the good in you, and is also letting you see its real self, not the shiny facade that you saw in the beginning. Yeah, Devanshi. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Devanshi, go ahead. And then I'll say what I was going to say.
Yeah, so I feel that this poem is really optimistic, and that it's like kind of you know asking us to be aware of our surroundings. Sometimes what happens is it's like our parents, they don't seem to let go of the outdated technology, and same happens with our feelings or whatever we are going through. So we kind of hold on to it, and we don't see that there are better things to life. It's even like nature has so much to give. So it's like raining here, and there could be two ways of interpreting rain. Happy and sad rain could be, for some people it brings sorrows and like memories, and for some it's like very playful, it brings them cheer. So I feel that this poem is doing that only, and this line, especially to feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. And this line that says, the stairs are your mentor of things to come, and this so on. So I feel that like sometimes we should just come out of our boxes or our room, and should see that like universe has so much for us. So like I have been in this place where I like I'm getting quite personal here, but I clinged to something like for 5 years, and now I'm slowly realizing that you know even if I can't let like to let go of that particular thing completely, I can still have a part of that in me, and I can still enjoy my life. I don't know how to put this up or if it's making any sense, but
You
I
make
just
sense. It makes
It
sense.
is making sense, yes.
yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, and the thing that I was saying kind of sort of does relate to it, like just going through experiences changes you. And then, like Riya said about the cooking pots, right? Like they have left their arrogant aloofness and have seen the good in you at last. There's this post going around. I don't know how many of you are Tumblr, if anybody has seen it, but it's like a brand new soft toy. And then this brand new soft toy, like the second picture is this toy is like dirty and muddy and ragged. And a very simple caption to go with it is, to be loved is to be changed.
Oh, I think this is from Peter Rabbit, is it?
I think so. I saw it on Tumblr.
Yeah, so the story is, this is beautiful. I'll try and find it out and put it in the chat while you're working on it. There's this whole story about this doll that's there's no eye, and now the bow tie is gone and all of that. I think it's Peter Rabbit, but yeah, to be loved is to be changed.
Yeah, just if you guys have like a soft toy when you were a baby, and the state of it right now, it's not shiny white. It probably doesn't have an eye. It doesn't have an arm. Something's falling off, and it's tearing apart from somewhere. But all of this is only happening because you loved it so much, and you changed it, and it changed you. So I just like you said, Devanshi, kind of does go back to this idea of like you were only changed because you loved something so much, and you can change again. So there's always room for growth, always room for other possibilities. Should we move on to our next poem?
Let's do that.
Okay, this is very similar in tone to the David White poem, and it's called Ordinary Things, because sometimes it is hard to feel like you belong somewhere, and to fully ground yourself in wherever you are, right? For example, you just moved out and you're having a hard time fitting in a new city. So you make routines, you create routines. Maybe you brought a mug from home and it's the same coffee mug you've used for 5 years. And that's one thing that is bringing you joy. And gradually you're going to accumulate things that will bring you joy. And poems like these sort of help you. We're not asking you to become, insanely positive from the get-go. But reading poems like these makes you sort of think about, there is a lot of bad in life, but there is also some good in life. And you don't have to search very hard for that good. It's right in front of you. So this is Ordinary Things by Pat Schneider. It is a kind of love, is it not? How the cup holds the tea, how the chair stands sturdy and foursquare, how the floor receives the bottoms of shoes or toes, how soles of feet know where they're supposed to be. I've been thinking about the patience of ordinary things, how clothes wait respectfully in closets, and soap dries quietly in the dish, and towels drink the wet from the skin of the back, and the lovely repetition of stairs. And what is more generous than a window? Thoughts, feelings?
While the David White poem invites you in, this feels like a very intimate thing that's happening between the poet and, like, you don't want to enter and spoil it. Like, that feels like he's welcoming you, he's asking you to see things. Here you feel like you're watching the poet, but I should get back to my own things, leave them with these things, with their corner, their nook, their cups and things they love, and get inspired by it. But I cannot enter this space, if I'm making sense.
Gauri, you wanted to add something?
I never ever thought of like the water droplets on my skin as a drink for a towel. I think that's an image I'll be grateful for so many days.
Right? It's such a simple act. It's an act we do every single day. But we just never think of it. That's what I was talking about when I said unexpected. Because once you read something so out of the ordinary in a poem about ordinary things, you're like, oh wow, I never thought of it like that. And it just makes you think so differently. Anyone wanna add anything more to this?
This poem, it's really wonderful, and it took me back to an old memory. If you have watched Hannah Gadsby's Nanette, right? In that she talks about the favorite sound in the world, and they say that my favorite sound in the world is the sound of a cup finding its place on a saucer. And yeah, I don't know how, but elements from this poem just reminded me of this thing which I had seen years ago. But yeah, it's really nice. I think I'm inspired to have a favorite sound of such simplicity and comfort.
Yeah. Just last night I was working on a poem, and I was thinking about being in this Chinese restaurant that I used to go to with my friends. And I was trying to think, what sounds could I hear? And in my head, I was like, when you go to restaurants, all you can hear is like stacking of ceramic plates on top of each other. It's like a din sound. And it's like, wow, why do I not think about this sound more? So it's the reason, I think, one of the reasons why Riya and I bonded so much as friends while doing poetry together was because we like the same poems. We like, it's very easy. I'll tell you what, it's very easy to log into Instagram and find sad poems. It is very easy. Your feed will be filled with sad poems. And I'm not saying that sad poems are bad poems. They're great poems. If they're coming from a place of sadness, if they're helping you purge something, they're wonderful. But sometimes, if you're in a bad place, to gradually pull yourself out of that place, you need these poems. You need poems that make you want to be grateful, that make you want to see things from a different perspective. Because this exact poem could also be a poem about how I'm lying in my room and I haven't done dishes for 500 years, and how I don't want to have a shower, and how I don't want to wash my clothes. And which is also a valid poem. I'm not saying it's not, but sometimes you have to search for happy things. And it has changed my life as a person and as a poet. And which is why I love putting these poems in workshops, because I want to share this with everybody. And it's just, this alertness and this appreciation for things around
Very
you.
small things.
Yeah.
Very
One of-
ordinary things.
One of the first things you learn, because I have formal education in writing, and one of my very first poetry classes, they gave us an exercise, which was, my university had a lake, and the exercise was to just go sit by the lake and, make a list of things you see, people watch. Write about the ducks. Did you see a fish in the lake? Just stuff like that. And it's very important as a poet to start from the very ordinary and then go to, grand big things. And if you really think about it, the grand and the big also exists within the ordinary. So you have to start.
What is grand and what is ordinary, right?
Right, exactly.
Till the difference becomes very unclear to you, you have to constantly look for beauty around you.
Yep. I feel like Riya will agree with me on this. But I think in my head, when you say what is grand, I would say a good meal with all my friends.
Yeah.
That's the grandest thing that can happen.
An orange after a meal.
Yeah.
I'm happy. A ripe orange.
But also, if your grand looks like biking in biking across India, write a poem about it, But also, when you're writing that poem, remember the sound of your bike tires on concrete. Remember the sounds you passed on your way to get to your destination. Remember the smells. Remember the colors, Remember the tiny details that brought you where you wanted to be. Because I don't want to read a poem where you just say, I biked and I got where I wanted to be. I want to know a story. I want to see what you saw. I want to hear what you heard. I want to smell what you smelled. And that's all in the tiny little moments of life, in the ordinary, in the dhaba you stopped at,
Even with friends, you are the closest with someone with whom you can share the mundanest of details. You won't do that with an acquaintance. The closer a friend, the stupider things you talk about, right?
Yeah.
That's the relation. That's the equation. So
that's a very good point.
your poems, bring that into your poems and you are golden.
Devanshi?
Yeah, so this very poem gets me thinking about how every evening my mother enters into my room and get me a platter full of fruits, and I'm always nagging about why do you do this? I don't want to eat fruits. And how I go with my friends, there's McDonald's near my college, so how just we go there and we just order a meal and we sit and we aren't even talking much, we just sit there for hours. And that outlet is very chaotic, it's very noisy, and we just sit there in silence for hours, and then finally someone says let's just go before they kick us out because it's been too long. So it reminds me of all these subtle things which I really never paid attention to before reading this poem. So yeah.
If there is one thing you take away from today's workshop, is to pay attention. Even if you don't write anything, just start paying attention. If you do that, we've done a great job. We have a couple more poems, but we also want to get through to the final writing prompt. I will make sure that Nilofer is able to give you access to this deck after the workshop is over, so you can read the last two poems we had for you in your own time. In the last 10 minutes, Riya, would you like to explain the prompt?
Yeah. So I'll just read through and then I'll tell you what you need to do. So we've discussed a lot of things around belonging, how you can belong to a person, to a place, to a moment in time. We've also talked about the yearning that we have as humans to belong. We've talked about the scars that we have to endure for not belonging or for being marginalized, and all of that. So now all of that is going to come handy when you write your final prompt. Write about a moment in which you felt like you finally belonged. Think about, so we did something similar for the listicle, but now we are trying to create a poem that takes into account the role of space, the role of time, the role of people. So we need you to pay attention to, if it's something that happened in the past, try to take your memory, jog your memory back to that day and think about who you met, what they were wearing, what were the colors around you, how you were feeling, what were the smells. Use all your senses, right? Uh, think about the sensory details of that particular moment. Were there any smells? What colors were you surrounded by? How did it feel on your skin? What sounds could you hear? All of it. And if there's more, if you've been blessed with more than 5 senses, use that too and create your final poem. And
This is your time to give context to your list items. Give it as much context as you can. But also remember that more is not necessarily good. Sometimes less words are what make a good poem. I am going to start.
Get to editing, write it down, think of it as an ugly first draft, and you could tighten it up later.
Let's do 10 minutes because you only have 10 minutes. So I'm going to start the timer now.
your poems and revel in them. That sounds good. So
one last present before we leave. You guys were writing, I found the meme, and this is it.
And the quote I was talking about was from Velveteen Rabbit. Yeah,
which
so
I have also added to the deck, and we
Aw.
will make sure that you will get this deck.
yes.
Thank you guys so much for
Thank you
joining
so
us today.
It was a great experience for both of us.
And thank you, Nilofer and Slam Out Loud, for having us and for trusting us to do this. And you guys for trusting us, enough that you were able to share some personal stuff with us.
Right. Nilofer says that she's dropped a feedback form for you all to fill. So, yeah.
If you want to take the stage, Nilofer, now.
Shivani and Riya, thank you so much for this beautiful workshop, so intimate and so real, and lovely selection of poems. We will love to do more such workshops with you and our community. Everyone, I've shared a short survey or feedback form. It'll take you less than 2 minutes. Please let us know what you thought about the workshop. It will help us plan better. And there's currently applications ongoing for the Jijivisha Fellowship. Check it out on our Instagram. It's a year-long full-time paid fellowship commitment where you'll be placed in classrooms across Mumbai, Bangalore, Pune, and Delhi. And you'll be teaching art forms such as poetry, visual arts, photography, and storytelling to children from disadvantaged backgrounds. And that's the mission of Slam Out Loud. We enable children to find their voices through art forms. So check it out on Instagram. I'll also drop the link in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great weekend ahead. Thanks.